talking about a certain George Dinsdale.
Oh, him.
Yes.
Instead, viewers were completely unaware of the off-camera tensions and brewing conflicts that circled the cast and crew during some of the show's most memorable moments. Everyone remembers the lighthearted storyline, but this particular scene didn't just stir up trouble in the writing room. It unraveled the delicate balance that held the series together. Close to the end of its run, one episode featured Samantha in a situation the censors found too bold for network television at the time. The now infamous moment showed Samantha using her magic in a way some studio executives thought crossed the line, sparking immediate backlash from higher-ups. While fans saw a charming trick, those behind the scenes debated canceling the episode altogether. Tensions grew as the writers refused to change the script, claiming creative freedom, while network leaders demanded adjustments to avoid controversy. Crew members whispered about it being the last straw for a show that had already weathered cast disputes and creative differences. In the days after it aired, phone lines burned with complaints, letters piled up at the studio office, and rumors spread like wildfire that advertisers might pull their support. Even loyal cast members could sense the shift, some believing this one scene had sealed the show's fate.
See what I mean?
That little number.
Interestingly, the decline of Bewitched had less to do with magic running out, and more to do with a secret that producers tried hard to keep from the television audience. Elizabeth Montgomery, the actress who played Samantha, became pregnant 3 times while filming the series. Only 2 of these pregnancies were ever woven into the story as plot points, first with the arrival of Tabitha, and later with Adam's unexpected debut on the show. The first time Montgomery became pregnant, the network decided not to let this be seen on screen. In the eyes of studio executives, it was considered improper for Samantha and Darren to have a baby so quickly after tying the knot. The concept of new marriage followed so soon by pregnancy was judged by the network bosses as unsightly for the early 1960s television viewers, even though audiences were beginning to see changing attitudes in society. As a result, the entire episode or storyline was kept secret from those watching at home, and producers worked carefully to hide Montgomery's pregnancy through camera angles, costuming, and selective scriptwriting. The concealment of real-life events, such as the pregnancy, reflected both the different standards television networks had in the era, as well as the pressure actors and creators faced in presenting a particular family-friendly image. All of this contributed, in part, to tension behind the scenes and influenced the direction and longevity of the show, paving the way for its eventual demise some years later.
A thing like this could lead to complications. Besides, it isn't fair to him. Mortals are very vulnerable.
Later into the production of the Bewitched television series, a significant change took place that shaped both the show and the experience for its viewers and cast. Dick York, the actor known for his charming role as Darren Stevens, became unable to continue his run after 5 seasons. The situation stemmed from a serious accident that occurred during a separate film shoot, causing him long-term severe back issues. Despite living in constant pain, York tried to meet the rigorous filming demands and maintain his role on Bewitched. During the 5th season, the conditions on set became especially trying when temperatures soared to 105 degrees while the crew worked through a particularly hot period. The swelling heat, combined with his ongoing back problems, placed immense stress on York. One day during filming, the pressure proved too much for him, and he suffered a seizure. This medical emergency required immediate attention and made it impossible for him to continue in his role. Without prior warning, York was suddenly no longer part of the show, shocking fans and disrupting the dynamic of the series. His abrupt resignation marked a dramatic end to his time on Bewitched, a result of enduring pain meeting an extreme workplace environment during an especially challenging episode of his life.
Well, I thought we might go to some nice, intimate little club.
Meanwhile, on the set of Bewitched, Elizabeth Montgomery became the face everyone recognized as Samantha Stevens, the charming witch trying her best to fit into the mortal world. Montgomery's talent wasn't limited to just one character. She expanded her performance to play Serena, Samantha's mischievous dark-haired cousin, bringing a completely different personality and tone to the show. Fans were often delighted or caught off guard by Serena's wild antics, which stood in stark contrast to Samantha's polite manners. Even more intriguingly, Montgomery stepped into the role of Pandora Spock, a ghostly figure, once again proving how she could shift from one unique identity to another with little effort. Her ability to transition between these roles helped keep the show lively, making it hard for the audience to tell that the same actress played such distinctly different women. Yet, while Montgomery switched between characters with apparent ease, not everything behind the scenes was as seamless. Agnes Moorehead, who played Samantha's formidable mother Endora, was known for her colorful personality and strong opinions. She established a deep rapport with Dick York, the original actor portraying Darren Stevens, Samantha's husband. When York had to be replaced due to health problems, Dick Sargent came in as the second Darren, but Moorehead couldn't hide her frustration. The change did not sit well with her at all. She often expressed her dislike for Sargent's version of Darren, and as a result, there were frequent awkward moments during filming. The atmosphere could get tense whenever scenes required close interaction between Endora and the new Darren, with Moorehead sometimes making her feelings obvious in subtle ways. The chemistry that existed before was missing, and the rest of the cast and crew had to adapt as best as they could to the shift. Even as the on-screen magic continued with Montgomery's dual and even triple roles, these tensions simmered just out of view, adding an extra layer of complexity to what appeared to be an easygoing, comedic show.
In a room. I just looked. I think I better pop over to the park and see what's going on.
Never mind the popping. Mrs.
However, before Bewitched ever made it to television screens, Elizabeth Montgomery, who would become famous as Samantha, almost never took the role. At the time, Montgomery was considering ending her acting career altogether, feeling uncertain about her future in entertainment and seeking a new path away from the spotlight. The decision weighed heavily on her, since the commitment to a television series meant years of work and possible typecasting. On the verge of stepping away, she eventually decided to accept the part, setting in motion the events that would make Bewitched one of the most beloved shows of the era. Meanwhile, Dick York, cast as the original Darren Stevens, faced his own struggles behind the scenes. Although he appeared cheerful and charming on camera, York was dealing with severe back pain that traced back to an earlier accident before his time on Bewitched. To cope, he relied on painkillers, and over time this dependence became a serious addiction. The physical and mental toll grew until York abruptly departed from the show during filming, unable to keep up with the demands of production. This exit left producers scrambling to find a replacement for the role of Darren, which was eventually filled by another actor. York's sudden absence and Montgomery's earlier doubts both cast long shadows behind the lighthearted magic seen by viewers each week, giving a glimpse into the unseen realities faced by the stars of Bewitched.
Serena. Who are you gonna get it?
Interestingly, on the set of Bewitched in 1964, the drinks on camera were often more than just props. The actors were given real alcohol to use during scenes where their characters would have a drink. This sometimes led to the cast actually becoming inebriated during filming, blurring the line between acting and reality, especially during longer or more social scenes. The relaxed approach to drinks on set gave an air of authenticity to the casual cocktail culture often shown in the series, but also added a layer of unpredictability to their performances, as a tipsy actor could bring unexpected energy or looseness to a role. In another twist behind the scenes, Samantha, the iconic witch played by Elizabeth Montgomery, was not the first actress considered for this role. Tammy Grimes was the producer's original choice for Samantha, and her name was at the top of the list when casting began. However, she declined the part because she did not understand Samantha's reasons or motives for her actions in the story, finding the character's behavior difficult to relate to or portray. This decision changed the direction of casting, opening the way for Elizabeth Montgomery to take on the role and bring her own interpretation to the character, a decision that ultimately defined the series and contributed to its lasting charm. The combination of real alcohol on set and the change in the intended actress created a unique atmosphere during production, providing both challenges and opportunities for the cast and crew.
Bombay, I don't know how to thank you.
Meanwhile, whenever the cameras started rolling on Bewitched, Montgomery would lift her arms, holding them up so the magic could seem real to viewers at home. She had to keep this pose without moving while the crew made changes on set, which meant her arms would get a serious workout. During long filming days, with take after take, and plenty of technical delays, holding still like that made her muscles tire and burn, giving her an arm workout she hadn't really signed up for when she took the job. Away from the magical scenes, people sometimes wondered if she and Moorhead shared a special bond outside their roles. But Montgomery didn't show any signs of being in love with Moorhead. In fact, she once lightly poked fun at Moorhead's set behavior, an inside joke that only those on the crew would have noticed. This kind of subtle back and forth revealed more about their real-life dynamic than anything scripted, with Montgomery keeping things light, but never crossing into the territory of romance with Moorhead. Behind the veneer of sitcom magic, the day-to-day challenges, quirks, and cast relationships shaped the show's atmosphere more than most fans ever realized. While Montgomery's arms got stronger by holding those poses, her interactions with Moorhead stuck more to professional banter, and her quick-witted jabs became well-known among those working behind the scenes. Their relationship stayed friendly, but never veered romantic, making each workday less about sparks flying off-screen, and more about keeping up appearances for the audience.
Oh, Samantha, the worst thing you can do is chase after him. Now you let me talk to him.
Now, wait a minute, Louise. I don't think that's such a
Samantha,
good
let
idea.
her have.
Meanwhile, the set of Bewitched was marked by true grit and loyalty shown behind the scenes. Alice Pierce, who played the nosy neighbor Gladys Kravitz, showed a level of dedication to her craft that few could match. Even as she fought cancer, Alice kept working with the cast and crew, bringing Gladys' unforgettable energy to every scene. She was so devoted that she continued filming almost right up until the day she died, never letting her illness become a reason to step back from the role. This kind of commitment left a deep impression on everyone who worked with her, giving her performance even more meaning to those who knew what she was going through. At the same time, Dick York, who played Darren Stevens, faced his own quiet struggle. York's chronic back problems were so severe that he required special furniture on set to alleviate his discomfort. The production team accommodated his needs by modifying props and providing extra support to help him get through long days of filming. Co-stars would often need to help York simply move around during scenes, their off-screen support mirroring the teamwork seen on camera. The atmosphere on set reflected a bond formed by shared difficulty, with both Alice Pierce and Dick York's challenges creating a sense of sympathy and resilience among the Bewitched family. Their determination to continue, despite the pain and obstacles they endured, left a lasting mark on the show's history and shaped the memories of their fellow cast members who witnessed their hard work day after day.
Darren, I'm serious.
What makes you think I'm not?
Meanwhile, Bewitched stands out as more than an American TV comedy about a witch trying to live a normal life. Its legacy reaches across continents, particularly influencing Japanese animation. The show's portrayal of Samantha, a magical character striving to fit in while keeping her powers hidden, sparked the imagination of animators in Japan. This inspiration gave rise to the magical girl subgenre in anime, a style centered on young girls with extraordinary abilities, often balancing daily struggles, friendships, and their secret powers. Shows that came later, filled with sparkling transformations and hidden identities, drew directly from Bewitched's balance between magical adventures and ordinary life. On another note, the character Tabitha, Samantha's daughter, was played by identical twins Erin and Diane Murphy throughout the series. Their alternating appearances on screen let the young actresses share the demanding role while bringing continuity to the character. Today, Erin and Diane Murphy are the only surviving cast members of Bewitched, creating a rare direct connection to the show's past. Other cast members, such as Elizabeth Montgomery, Agnes Moorehead, and Dick York, have all passed away, leaving the Murphy twins as the living link back to that era. The twins' performance as Tabitha left a mark across generations of viewers, making them memorable faces to fans long after the series ended. The influence of Bewitched on both Western and Eastern television still lingers, with its echoes found in many stories about girls navigating the ups and downs of life through a lens of wonder and magic.
I bet you don't know.
However, the behind-the-scenes story of York's love for Montgomery adds a complicated layer to the production of Bewitched. Dick York, who played Samantha's mortal husband Darren, was genuinely in love with Elizabeth Montgomery. This was a deep, true love, not just admiration between co-stars or a simple crush. York's affection went far beyond the screen, sometimes making things tense off camera. Montgomery, on the other hand, was married to the show's producer, William Asher, during the filming. This made York's feelings not just awkward, but uncomfortable for Montgomery, especially since her personal and professional lives were already closely tied. The chemistry seen between Darren and Samantha wasn't just acting. For York, those on-screen moments were emotionally charged, making every scene with Montgomery more difficultly attendant. Despite Montgomery's graceful handling of the situation, she could not help but feel uneasy knowing York's real feelings. This situation added to the emotional weight both actors carried during their years on the show. Meanwhile, Montgomery's nose twitch, perhaps the most famous physical gesture from the show, originated not as a planned character trait, but from her own nervous mannerism. Whenever she felt anxious, her nose would move in that signature way, and her husband, observing that private quirk, decided to write it into the scripts as Samantha's way of casting spells. Viewers everywhere became fascinated by her twitch, turning it into an iconic symbol, though for Montgomery herself, it was always just a reflexive gesture. Her real-life nervousness was neatly transformed into comedy for millions, while behind the scenes, the real-life emotional tension could never be worked into the magic of the show itself.
And I grabbed the hen and ran as fast as my little feet could carry me.
Meanwhile, a lesser-known extension of the Bewitched universe arrived in the late 1970s, long after the original show's peak. Tabitha, the brief sister series, aired on ABC, and focused on the adventures of Samantha and Darren's daughter, all grown up, and facing her own magical challenges. The atmosphere of Tabitha was different, set years after Bewitched, and without the original cast that viewers had grown to love. While it held the potential for nostalgia, audiences never widely embraced the spin-off, which led to its short run on television, and only a faint mark on TV history. The shadow of Bewitched itself always seemed to loom large, and no spin-off could quite recapture the original magic or star power. Around the same era, off-screen drama also rippled through the Bewitched cast, centering especially on star Elizabeth Montgomery. Her marriage to William Asher, who also served as a producer for the show, became increasingly strained as the years went on. Episodes still filmed, but tension often simmered under the surface. Rumors swirled among those who worked on set, and within TV circles regarding Montgomery's relationship with another producer, Richard Michaels. This gossip suggested that Montgomery and Michaels were involved in an affair while she remained married to Asher, adding a layer of real-life intrigue and trouble to the production. The rumored affair and the difficulties in Montgomery's marriage became part of Bewitched's behind-the-scenes story, adding an undercurrent to the familiar sitcom surface. Fans have long speculated how these personal dynamics might have affected the mood on set or the direction of the show, and its offshoots, including any hopes for future projects linked to its beloved characters.
Honey, I can't let up now. A, I gotta get ready for Baxter, and B, there's no reason why I can't become the club champion.
And C.
Interestingly, the selection of Tabitha for the 1964 television series Bewitched drew attention, since future stars Jodie Foster and Helen Hunt were considered before the producers decided on Erin Murphy for the role. The process behind casting Tabitha was notable because of the level of competition among young actresses, and the role itself became iconic as the daughter of Samantha and Darren Stevens. As the character became a fan favorite, the show's combination of humor, fantasy, and domestic life set it apart from other series at the time. Bewitched cleverly mixed magical mischief with everyday situations, attracting a large, loyal audience that prompted networks to replicate its formula. That led to the creation of similar shows, most notably NBC's I Dream of Jeannie, which tried to capture the same charm by blending comedy and supernatural elements. Both series ended up using some of the same sets and props, a common practice in that era of television production, which created a visual connection between the programs. The shared look contributed to a familiar atmosphere for audiences, even when flipping between the competing shows. The influence of Bewitched was evident not just in the storylines, but also in how it shaped television trends and inspired studios to pursue their own versions of mischievous, magical women leading double lives. While Bewitched set a standard for fantasy sitcoms, its casting choices and enduring style remain closely associated with the golden age of classic TV comedy.
How you say it, nothing. Yeah, it's...
Interestingly, the famous nose twitch from the 1964 TV series Bewitched, performed by Elizabeth Montgomery to cast spells, was not a real movement on her part, but achieved through a clever camera trick. Erin Murphy, who played Tabitha, later confirmed that Montgomery herself couldn't wiggle her nose in that distinct way. Instead, she would move her upper lip, and the editors would exaggerate the movement to give the magical effect that became so closely associated with the character. Behind the scenes, wardrobe was handled in an unusual manner. Actors often brought their own clothes from home to use on the show. These outfits were collected and cared for by the on-set wardrobe department, which took charge of washing and ironing the clothing so that everything appeared neat and camera-ready for filming. While this practice was not typical for every television show, it allowed for some personal style expression on screen and added a layer of realism to the costumes. Montgomery, despite her enduring popularity as Samantha, felt limited by the repetitive demands of her role over time. She longed for opportunities to stretch her abilities with more challenging acting work away from sitcom conventions. After completing the 5th season, Montgomery decided that she would only return to Bewitched if she was offered a significant salary increase. Her wish for a more substantial and difficult role highlighted her ambition and her growing artistic dissatisfaction, showing how even successful television stars can feel boxed in by the parts that make them household names.
Mr. Stevens, this is Professor McAllister.
How do you do? Very good of you to...
Interestingly, the world of Bewitched was not just about magic and comedy. It also reflected unique family situations that added to its impact on television history. One memorable example is the portrayal of Samantha's parents as separated spouses. This brought a fresh dynamic to the humor, with frequent disagreements and awkward encounters between Endora and Maurice. Their on-screen relationship offered a new angle for sitcom storytelling, opening the door to more complex adult situations rather than just focusing on simple family life. The casting of Darren was another significant part of the show's story, especially when Dick Sargent stepped into the role after Dick York left due to health issues. Dick Sargent's time on Bewitched kept the show moving forward, but his passing in 1994 brought sadness among fans. Despite many rumors, he died from prostate cancer, not AIDS, which had been falsely assumed by some because Sargent was openly gay. Separately, the start of Bewitched was marked by unexpected controversy outside the studio. Before the first episode had even aired, conservative communities in the Bible Belt protested, worried that a show about witches and supernatural events might encourage devil worship or at least soften attitudes toward the occult, and some even accused the show of being unchristian, leading to picketing outside television stations and letter-writing campaigns calling for its cancellation. These events set a striking contrast to the lighthearted tone the series was known for, showing how pop culture and social anxieties often intersected in complex ways during the 1960s.
Now, just a minute. The reason we have a problem is that your mother had a fight with your father.
Meanwhile, Paul Lynde's presence on the classic show Bewitched became memorable thanks to his role as the eccentric and mischievous Uncle Arthur. With his sharp wit, unique voice, and lively energy, Lynde brought a sense of comic relief that stood out even among other colorful characters. Uncle Arthur was infamous for stirring up magical mischief and teasing his sister Endora or brother-in-law Darren, with Lynde's timing and delivery driving many of the show's funniest moments. In another well-known appearance, Lynde played a nervous and bumbling driving instructor, turning a simple driving lesson into a scene full of physical comedy and nervous energy. His performances so impressed network executives and producers that he became a recurring presence, elevating almost every episode in which he appeared. Years later, the charm and quirks of Bewitched characters inspired a clever parody in the Marvel show WandaVision. Elizabeth Olsen, playing Wanda, echoed many of Montgomery's physical gestures and comedic mannerisms from Bewitched, drawing from the legacy of Lynde's performances and the larger show. This playful homage reminded viewers how influential Bewitched was in shaping the tone and style of magical sitcoms for generations, keeping Lynde's memorable contributions relevant for new audiences.
But I mean, you're going to have to learn to be a suburban housewife.
I'll learn, you'll see.
Meanwhile, the world behind Samantha's magic sparkled with creativity far more than cutting-edge technology. In 1964, special effects crews had few tricks in their toolkit, so every instance of Samantha twitching her nose to make something disappear took careful planning. Sometimes wires, camera stoppage, or simple camera cuts made a vase appear to vanish. Objects that seemed to fly across a room were often tied to almost invisible strings, and each jump cut had to be matched perfectly so that the magic seemed as smooth as possible to viewers at home. Sound effects like a twinkling bell enhanced these tricks, making viewers believe in Samantha's powers, even though nearly every effect took long hours, and creative thinking from the show's technical crew. Actors had to freeze in place on cue, hold a position for a long time, and repeat actions many times until the crew got the desired resolution at the same time. Behind the scenes, Mary Grace Canfield stepped into a new role after the loss of the Alice Pierce, who played Gladys Kravitz. Instead, Canfield became the housekeeper, Abner Kravitz, filling an important gap in the cast. She was asked to join Bewitched during this difficult transition, and became part of the show's unique atmosphere, often becoming part of the stories that involve Samantha's magical antics and misunderstandings with the neighbors. The challenges that came with the show's special effects only enhanced the ensemble cast's ability to work together, and Canfield's presence helped keep the chemistry among the performers lively during a time of change.
Certainly see to that, Mrs. Stevens. Goodbye.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Interestingly, York's early entry into the entertainment business started when he was discovered by a nun, a chance that led him to his first regular role on the radio sitcom That Brewster Boy at just 15 years old. Years later, he became widely known for his role in the beloved 1964 television series Bewitched. While many assume that shows like Bewitched ended simply because they lost their popularity or audience attention, the real reason was quite different. The series did not face declining viewership to the point of cancellation. In fact, it was Elizabeth Montgomery, the leading actress, who made the personal decision that she could no longer continue with the demanding schedule and the ongoing work associated with the role. Her decision not to return placed an unavoidable stop to the show's production, resulting in its end. This behind-the-scenes reality reveals how sometimes the fate of a television series, even one as cherished as Bewitched, hinges not on ratings but on the choices of the people who bring its characters to life.
No, the toy salesman at Hanley's department store. Your father?
No, but you're close.
Nevertheless, Agnes Moorehead brought wit and a strong presence to her portrayal of Endora on the show, often lighting up scenes with her distinctive style. Despite this, she privately believed that the character did not truly allow her to display her range as an actress. Moorehead had a long and respected career before joining the cast, and she sometimes mentioned in interviews and to colleagues that her talents extended far beyond what was possible in the mostly comedic, sometimes one-note role of Samantha's magical mother. Still, she found real enjoyment in the camaraderie on set and the loyal following that the show developed, which gave her a sense of fulfillment. At the same time, the series star, Elizabeth Montgomery, faced her own quiet struggles later in life. Her family, friends, and fans were taken by surprise when she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, only 2 months before her death. This sudden and devastating illness left little time for Montgomery or anyone close to her to prepare. She had, until then, kept her personal hardships largely private, maintaining a professional and warm demeanor throughout her career. The loss was felt deeply by those who had worked with her, and by generations of viewers who appreciated her character's warmth and humor. Interestingly, the personal life of Elizabeth Montgomery during her time on Bewitched had layers not visible to her TV audience. While she brought so much charm and magic to her character, her home life was much more complicated. Montgomery's father struggled with jealousy over her rise to fame, and, despite his own success in Hollywood, never wished for her to become an actor. This tension cast a shadow over her accomplishments, making her journey even more difficult behind the scenes. As the series became a hit, another thing that bothered Montgomery was the show's animated title sequence. Though memorable to viewers, she believed it could have been far more creative and better match the magic and style of the show itself. The animation, while iconic to audiences, never quite satisfied Montgomery's own creative hopes for how her character's magical world should be introduced on screen. She kept these opinions close, rarely expressing them publicly, yet her thoughts colored her feelings toward one of television's most beloved openings. Additionally, with mounting pressure from fame, the intense close-ups, and nearly constant attention paid to her looks, Montgomery allegedly underwent numerous cosmetic procedures, including a nose job, during her years filming Bewitched. This was whispered about in Hollywood circles at the time, with her appearance subtly changing across seasons. Such choices point to the unique kind of pressures felt by stars, particularly women, in an industry that valued youth and beauty so highly. These facts combine to reveal how much more complex and fraught life behind the scenes could be, even on a show as seemingly breezy and fun as Bewitched.
Here? Now? In me carpet slippers? You must be kidding.
Interestingly, the 1964 television series Bewitched featured a unique detail about Mary Lauren's character that was closely tied to her own real-life interests. Mary Lauren had a genuine passion for collecting antique doorknobs, a pastime she pursued outside of her acting work, and this personal hobby was woven directly into her character's personality on the show. This detail added an authentic touch, showing viewers Lauren's quirky side and giving her role a memorable trait rooted in her off-screen life. In addition, the world of Bewitched and the Partridge Family are connected through the very houses viewers saw on television. The house where the Kravitz family lived on Bewitched wasn't just a random set. After Bewitched ended, that same house appeared again as the home for the characters in the Partridge Family. The familiar facade quietly tied these two classic TV shows together in an unexpected way, adding another interesting layer to both series and inviting fans to notice subtle nods from one show to another. These connections, drawn from real life and television history, reveal how intertwined the creative production of classic series could be, blending the personal passions of actors with the practical reuse of iconic sets.
The full impact, right?
Huh? Oh, right.
Despite the fun and magic of Bewitched, the story behind the scenes was just as striking. Elizabeth Montgomery earned a significant fortune by the time the show hit its stride, thanks to her business smarts and a 20% ownership in the production itself. This wasn't typical for television stars of the era, as most actors worked for a set salary and rarely saw more money when their shows aired again and again. But as Bewitched reached syndication, Montgomery's stake brought in millions, turning a popular acting job into a lasting financial windfall. Yet, the path to success was not without its doubts. Agnes Moorehead, who eventually became beloved as the sharp-tongued Endora, had serious reservations before joining the show. She was well established as a dramatic actress and saw television comedy as a risky move. Before filming even began, Moorehead considered declining the role, uncertain about Bewitched's premise and the direction it would take. However, she ultimately agreed to film the pilot episode, despite little trust that the series would take off or find an audience. In time, her portrayal of Endora became one of television's most iconic witch characters, and her decision to take a chance on Bewitched proved transformative, both for her career and for the show's enduring legacy. Naturally, interest in parody and homage to classic TV grows with each generation, offering fresh takes on beloved characters. In 2019, a notable example surfaced when Murphy revisited her role as Tabitha through a parody sketch for the web series TV Therapy on YouTube. That sketch cleverly played with nostalgia, reminding viewers of the ways Tabitha's magical identity captured and sometimes complicated domestic life on television. This turn toward parody highlights the series' lasting cultural footprint, while acknowledging the playful spirit that set it apart. Meanwhile, the roots of Bewitched's success as a show go much deeper, tracing back to earlier Hollywood films. Before Bewitched's 1964 television debut, the groundwork had been laid by movies produced by screen gems such as Belle, Book and Candle, and I Married a Witch. Both films explored themes of enchantment and supernatural women hiding their magical natures in everyday society. Their influence is easy to spot in Bewitched's story about a witch choosing to live as an ordinary suburban wife, facing frequent trouble as her mystical background complicates human relationships. The borrowing of these cinematic ideas infused the show with a mixture of whimsical charm, sly humor, and social commentary that resonated across the decades. In this way, both the playful revivals on new media platforms and the original filmed inspirations continue to breathe life into the legacy of the sitcom, revealing how earlier works can be reimagined and enjoyed again and again by new audiences and creators alike.
Uh-oh.
Get your hands off of there! That's the original soot on there. I don't want any finger marks on it.
Years ago, Jackie Cooper played a crucial part in getting Bewitched on the air by putting together a group of comedy shows that he believed would be successful for ABC. His ability to spot what would make viewers laugh and keep watching was key for the launch and popularity of Bewitched. Cooper's talent for picking out a winning comedy idea and bringing it to producers helped make Bewitched stand out in a crowded TV marketplace. Thanks to his early support and his choice to include Bewitched in the lineup, the show gained attention from both the network and audiences, helping it become a lasting favorite. Over time, Bewitched has continued to attract new interest, leading to fresh ideas for bringing it back to viewers. In recent years, there have been two distinct revival projects focused on updating the spirit of Bewitched for new generations. One is a television adaptation being developed by Kenya Barris, known for his work in comedy and bringing modern perspectives to classic stories. The other project is a feature film version directed by Terry Matalas, whose approach aims to reimagine the magical comedy for the big screen. Each new attempt shows how lasting Cooper's original influence is, as the story continues to inspire new creators and fans, keeping Bewitched alive long after its original debut. Meanwhile, the stories behind the scenes of Bewitched sometimes held as much intrigue as the magical antics on screen. Elizabeth Montgomery, known for her role as Samantha, worked on the film Kid Galahad before Bewitched became a household name. During this time, reports surfaced that she flirted with Elvis Presley, who was already a global sensation. Rumors of a romantic involvement spread, though there was never a clear confirmation that they actually dated, leaving the nature of their connection uncertain and feeding Hollywood gossip for years to come. Montgomery's charm and presence, both on and off screen, certainly sparked the attention of many, especially someone as charismatic as Elvis. While this chapter in Montgomery's life remained mostly hidden from public view, it added a layer of mystique to her legacy in television history. At the same time, Bewitched's cast members faced trials beyond the spotlight. David White, who played the affable advertising executive Larry Tate, led an accomplished career, but experienced personal heartbreak long after the show's run. In 1988, his son Jonathan was one of the victims of the Lockerbie tragedy, a devastating event that shocked the world when Pan Am Flight 103 was destroyed over Scotland. White was deeply affected by his son's loss, carrying a grief that shaped his later years. The pain he endured was a stark contrast to the light-hearted persona audiences knew him for on Bewitched, reminding fans that the real lives of those involved with the show were sometimes marked by tragedy as well as fame. The intersection of stardom, private struggles, and public perception created deeper stories behind the laughs and magic of the beloved series.
First wedding anniversary and our first future baby.
All right, I'm ready to celebrate.
Oh,
Meanwhile, behind the scenes of the 1964 television series Bewitched, the connections and fates of the cast and creative team wove a complex pattern that sometimes mirrored the magic and drama unfolding on screen. While much of the show's charm was brought to life through Elizabeth Montgomery and producer William Asher, both of whom later married, there were other notable romantic developments hidden from public view. Among these, Jill Foster and Bernard Slade also formed a union away from the studio lights, quietly marrying as their professional paths crossed behind the scenes. These marriages contributed an undercurrent of real-life affection to the set, adding layers of personal history to professional collaborations. Yet even as love stories blossomed off camera, some cast members faced haunting misfortunes that reached back years before Bewitched ever aired. Agnes Moorehead, who played the unforgettable Endora, died from uterine cancer. This tragedy, however, carried a shadowy rumor Moorehead's illness and the cancer deaths of other actors who had previously worked on the notorious film The Conqueror were believed to be connected to exposure at the movie's filming location, a site contaminated by nuclear fallout. Those somber connections took on a grim notoriety in Hollywood history, especially as other stars of The Conqueror also succumbed to cancer, fueling ongoing speculation. Thus, the world of Bewitched was not only shaped by behind-the-scenes romances, but also haunted by the lingering effects of past choices and hidden dangers from earlier film projects, intertwining personal milestones with tragedies among the cast and crew.
Again.
As the unique charm of Bewitched unfolded on television in 1964, Dick York brought Darren to life with a distinctive perspective. He always saw the series not just as a comedy about witches, but as a genuine love story between Darren and Samantha. York believed Darren would have been a stronger character if he had shown more empathy toward his witch wife, especially given her efforts to blend into mortal life out of devotion. While Darren often clashed with Endora, Samantha's mischievous mother, those fiery scenes masked the real off-camera bond between York and Agnes Moorehead. Their true friendship blossomed off-set, showing none of the sharp edges that viewers saw between their characters on screen. The warmth between York and Moorehead contrasted so much with their scripted squabbles that it became a favorite bit of behind-the-scenes trivia. York's path to becoming Darren was as lively as the show itself. At his audition, he didn't hesitate to bring immediate chemistry to the forefront, playfully making his entrance memorable. He confidently climbed onto Elizabeth Montgomery's lap, breaking the tension in the room and announcing, "Aren't we cute together?" It was that spark, that fearless approach, which helped him win the role, ensuring Darren felt authentic from the very first episode.
The campaign, I thought I was doing you a favor.
A favor, eh? You took a cat and turned...
Interestingly, the Bewitched theme music has its roots in a Chevy commercial jingle, as Chevrolet was the show's sponsor when it launched in 1964. The network and creative team wanted a theme that would both capture the magical, lively tone of the series and subtly hint at the Chevy sponsorship, so they decided to parody the commercial jingle, giving it a playful twist that fit the whimsical world of Samantha and her family. This decision turned out to be a masterstroke, because the catchy, upbeat tune helped define the show's identity and became instantly recognizable. Many viewers over the years could hum the music without remembering its advertising origins, but during the original run, the connection with Chevy was more obvious thanks to in-show integrations and commercials. Another behind-the-scenes story involves the character of Abner Kravitz, the nosy but lovable neighbor living across from the Stevens family. The producers originally wanted Jim Backus, known for his voice work as Mr. Magoo, and later as Thurston Howell on Gilligan's Island, to play Abner. His knack for comedy and distinct voice seemed like a perfect fit for the role. However, Backus had already committed to Gilligan's Island, which premiered in the same year, making it impossible for him to take the part. The role of Abner ultimately went to George Tobias, whose portrayal has since become closely associated with the series. Both of these behind-the-scenes details highlight how advertising and scheduling shaped two memorable parts of Bewitched: the music that greeted viewers each week, and the neighbor who peeked from behind the curtains, always ready for another magical mishap.
That's a new word for it.
Roxy.
After all the years I carried you in this stale act, now when you found...
After the departure of producer Danny Arnold from Bewitched, a surprising incident happened within the cast. Irene Vernon, who played Louise Tate, found herself caught in the aftermath. Studio executives, unable to separate her personal friendship with Arnold from professional relationships, decided to fire her. The atmosphere behind the scenes of Bewitched changed, because Vernon's removal was not due to her performance, but to her connection to Arnold, who had left the show. This moment reflected the uneasy alliances and power shifts common in Hollywood during the 1960s, where actors' fates could hinge on their personal connections as much as on their talent. Years after the popularity of Bewitched had waned, and the actors had moved on, another story unfolded among the show's cast. In 2014, Erin Murphy, best known for playing Tabitha, began a totally new chapter away from television. She co-founded a business dedicated to making low-calorie ice pops. These ice pops carried a modern twist. They specialize in vodka martinis as their main flavor. Murphy's business targeted adults looking for a refreshing and grown-up treat, marking a notable shift from her childhood role on Bewitched to entrepreneurial ventures well-suited to her own generation and the evolving marketplace. With these different roads taken by the actors, both stories offer a glimpse into life after the cameras stopped rolling, showing how connections and reinvention influence those tied to the world of Bewitched.
Dare you?
Whoops.
Easy. How dare you talk to us in that...
Initially, Bewitched faced challenges with its special effects due to the era's limited technology, making it necessary for Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha, to be very still when magical acts were on screen. The technical crew had to manually pause filming and keep her motionless so they could make objects appear or disappear, and this sometimes made the scenes tricky to perform naturally. Meanwhile, after the actress who played the beloved Aunt Clara, Marion Lorne, passed away, Alice Ghostley was approached about joining the cast. Ghostley was cautious about accepting the role, since she didn't want to seem like she was replacing Aunt Clara, whose character had left a lasting impression on viewers. When the producers reassured Ghostley that her character, Esmeralda, would be brand new and distinct, she agreed to take the part. This helped preserve the affection fans felt for Aunt Clara, while allowing Ghostley to bring her own flavor to the show. The effort to adapt to technology and cast changes reflected the care the team put into keeping the spirit of Bewitched alive, even as they navigated behind-the-scenes limitations and sensitive transitions in the cast, a testament to the creative solutions that defined the show's production and its continued place in television history.
Taxi!
Now, wait a minute. That's just a family weakness.
Even though Bewitched has cast its final spell for this segment, there's still one more trick left up our sleeve. Have you ever wondered what happened to the actors after Samantha's magic faded and the music stopped? Behind the clever scripts and the whirling special effects, the cast members each had stories that kept unfolding long after the camera lights cooled. In this special bonus feature, we reveal exactly where life led the stars after their time on Morning Glory Circle. You'll hear about surprising second acts, personal challenges, quiet triumphs, and even a few real-life twists that rival anything witchcraft could conjure. Some disappeared from the spotlight, while others stepped into new fame, changed careers, or faced obstacles that even Samantha would struggle to undo. Get ready for an inside look at their off-screen journeys, packed with facts and surprises you probably never heard before. The curtain may have closed, but the story isn't quite over yet.
Oh, that's all right. I can take a hint. A school doesn't have to fall on me.
Marion Lauren's portrayal of Aunt Clara in the 1964 television series Bewitched brought to life a character whose bumbling magic and haunting nostalgia masked a deep sense of sadness. Lauren used her own collection of antique doorknobs for the role, blurring the line between fiction and reality. Behind Aunt Clara's gentle confusion, Lauren herself was an actress of stage and screen, schooled in the shadows of New York and London's theaters. Her offstage life, though private, was not untouched by darkness. Lauren had married playwright Walter C. Hackett and lived for decades under the weight of his infidelities and the heartbreak of his sudden death in 1944. She kept performative energy alive, but the grief and loneliness never fully lifted. Many thought her retreat after Hackett's death was permanent, yet Hollywood sought her out, and Bewitched became her late renaissance. Though adored on set, Lauren suffered from frail health and persistent anxiety, often haunted by doubts that her fading memory would betray her on camera. She died suddenly in her New York apartment in May 1968, just days before being posthumously awarded an Emmy. The circumstances were simple: a heart attack while alone, her secrets hidden from prying eyes. There are no surviving personal diaries, no confessions. The myth of Marion Lauren remains unfinished, her soft voice echoing only in reruns and fading photographs.
I'm posing, Samantha, but I told her you wouldn't mind.
Relax, Lingling. You're among friends.
Casey Rogers joined Bewitched in its second season, taking over as Louise Tate, a character often mirroring the pressures of suburban conformity and the shadows beneath polished facades. Rogers slipped between the lines of comedy and disquiet, bringing a hint of unease to Louise's strained marriage and social aspirations, reflecting mid-century anxieties clipped neatly behind cocktail smiles. After Bewitched, Rogers' orbit dimmed under Hollywood's harsh light. Once an ascending star on screens, she was forced to reinvent herself, working quietly behind the scenes as a writer and producer. She wrote books about Halloween and even promoted women's involvement in motocross, but nothing matched the fame that Bewitched brought. In her personal life, rumors of friction with industry insiders followed, and whispers about her sudden departure from a thriving career never faded. Health struggles marked her last years, especially after a reported stroke, forcing her from public events and interviews. Her final days were shrouded in silence, with little contact from former cast members or the media, her story closing much like Bewitched itself, without warning, swallowed by secrets. Dick Sargent stepped into the role of Darren Stevens on Bewitched in 1969, not 1964. His arrival came after Dick York's sudden departure due to crippling back pain and addiction issues. Sargent's version of Darren was sharper and cooler, masking deeper emotional distance. The switch triggered backlash and confusion as fans noticed Sargent's stiffer manner, yet he brought a darker, more skeptical energy to the character, often clashing on-screen with Samantha's magical world. Off-screen, Sargent's own life was marked by struggles. He spent years as a closeted gay man in Hollywood, hiding his identity to protect his career during an intensely prejudiced era. His public coming out in 1991, long after Bewitched had ended, was a defiant move amid the AIDS crisis, which had claimed his partner, Albert Williams, earlier that year. Sargent faced depression and health battles, including prostate cancer, before dying in 1994. There were no dramatic scandals, but his story is haunted by regret and loss. The most recent echoes of him exist in heartfelt interviews and tributes, painting a picture of an actor who spent decades searching for acceptance.
Your eye on Larry. Don't let him out of your sight. I'm ready for takeoff.
David White became a fixture of American television as Larry Tate, the ever-calculating boss, blending charm with corporate duplicity. The role cemented his image ingratiating, persuasive, never quite trustworthy. After leaving that world, White's life grew shadowed. He struggled to break from Larry. Offers became sparse, his name fading as producers saw only the slick ad executive. Personal tragedy struck in 1988 when his adult son Jonathan died in the terrorist bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland. The loss haunted White, deepening his growing isolation. Rumors followed him, whispers of feuds on set, of casting rooms gone dark after angry phone calls. Though these were never confirmed, the air of mystery clung to him. He remarried late in life, seeking solace, but pain lingered beneath the surface. His final television work was mostly small, silent roles, brief appearances in shadowy corners of the industry he once ruled. David White died in 1990 alone, interests and hardships both quietly trailing him. No new information has come forward in recent years, and his story remains suspended, unresolved.
About advertising, but I am an authority on human foibles, one of the most sensitive of the...
Charles Lane, cast as Ed Hotchkiss in a single 1964 episode of Bewitched, channeled his signature withering glare and tight-lipped delivery, making Hotchkiss a cold, abrasive figure, the kind Lane was known for. After his fleeting appearance, Lane's career kept him in steady demand, yet he lived beneath a shadow few saw. He was infamous on set for his gruffness, fueling stories of on-set clashes, most notably with director Frank Capra decades earlier, a conflict that haunted Lane, souring later collaborations. He maintained an uneasy relationship with Hollywood's power brokers, missing out on more ambitious roles for speaking his mind too often. In the 1970s, Lane's personal life unraveled bitter divorce proceedings, followed by a public feud with his son over property. Rumors of a gambling addiction circulated, worsening his isolation and forcing appearances in commercial work he once scorned. By the late 1990s, Lane retreated from the public eye, surfacing only rarely at industry events, shrouded in mystery. In his final years, he left few confidants and fewer public statements, his last known correspondence a terse letter disputing his portrayal in an unauthorized biography. His secrets went with him.
Then it is not possible. Somehow I find your face...
As in Dora in 1964's Bewitched, Agnes Moorehead created a character seething with wit and otherworldly presence. Her gaze was chilling, her sarcasm sharp, sometimes bordering on malice toward her on-screen son-in-law, weaving a performance both feared and adored by audiences, away from the swirling dry ice of studio sets. Moorehead's real world felt colder. Her celebrated radio and film career gave way to Bewitched fame, but left her longing for serious roles. She was rumored to have resented being typecast, and reportedly clashed with certain cast members, notably Dick York, which fed quiet feuds beneath Hollywood's surface smiles. Outside the spotlight, Moorehead never remarried after her bitter divorce. Whispers swirled about her intensely private life. Rumors of affairs with both men and women trailed her through the decades, yet she kept her inner circle tight, fiercely protecting her secrets. Critics later wondered whether her notorious discipline and distant manner covered old wounds from past betrayals, and the endless pressure to hide vulnerable truths at a time when Hollywood chewed up and spat out those who strayed from the norm. She was swept into the so-called Hollywood curse after several cast and crew from Bewitched died young, including herself. Moorehead died of uterine cancer in 1974 at 73, a disease she suspected was caused by radioactive fallout from filming The Conqueror in Nevada. In her last days, she reportedly burned diaries and personal letters, leaving behind a legacy shrouded in elegance and mystery, her motives and heartbreaks mostly erased. There have been no new revelations about her private life or the silent pains beneath her dazzling roles.
I am very much in love with my wife, and my wife is very much in love with me.
How nice. Kiss.
Erin Murphy became Tabitha Stevens in 1966, not in the show's first year, but when the iconic toddler witch began to charm audiences. Blonde, bright-eyed, and almost eerily poised for her age, Murphy and her twin sister Diane shared the role at first, though by age 5, Erin alone carried it. Her innocent face left a deep impression, making Tabitha the most memorable child character on Bewitched. After the series ended, Murphy did not sail easily into fame. Hollywood's doors closed fast, and child star life faded to a relentless normal. She struggled to find work, taking on odd jobs from casting agent to fashion stylist. Her time as a house cleaner became a tabloid whisper. At school, and later in public events, curiosity turned cruel, as the cute witch label lingered, and sometimes isolated her. Later, her personal life drew attention. 6 marriages, several of them ending in stormy divorces. She raised 6 sons, accepting public scrutiny and the rumors that trailed her. Murphy has spoken publicly about caring for her autistic son, a disclosure that exposed her to both support and online abuse. She once admitted a battle with depression, a shadow rarely acknowledged by other child stars of her era. Unlike many peers, Murphy stayed mostly scandal-free, but speculation has never left her. Last seen working as a motivational speaker and entrepreneur, she avoids Hollywood, but remains active on social media, sharing glimpses of her family and ongoing business ventures.
Just a minute, I object.
You can't. The trial hasn't started yet.
Maurice Evans played Maurice, Samantha's father on Bewitched, with an eccentric arrogance and cutting wit that made the character unforgettable. On screen, his dark eyes flashed with a pride tainted by jealousy, reflecting the tensions between mortal and magical worlds. Offset, Evans' life was tangled with more shadows than most of his admirers ever guessed. After leaving Bewitched, he continued to act, but remained haunted by the loss of his close friend, the actor John Gielgud, which left Evans withdrawn and prone to melancholy. He struggled with alcoholism, fueling rumors of angry outbursts and frequent disappearances from set during late career roles. There was a notorious scandal in 1973, when Evans was arrested in New York for public intoxication, a headline that nearly ended his career. He never married, and close friends hinted at secretive long-term relationships hidden due to social stigma. As time passed, Evans retreated from the spotlight and spent his final years in relative obscurity on the coast of Sussex, where his health rapidly declined. The last known public appearance was at a charity auction in 1983, etched with frailty and a deep sadness. Since then, no verifiable sightings have been reported, and his retreat into silence remains a topic of speculation among those who recall the brilliance and darkness he brought to the stage. Parley Baer's appearance as the desk sergeant in the 1964 season of Bewitched was brief, but his stern presence stuck out. His sharp delivery hinted at deeper troubles, something slightly sinister underneath the uniform. After his Bewitched cameo, Baer's life took on a strange duality. While he became a staple of radio drama and television, his personal world was crumbling. Rumors circled about a bitter lawsuit with a former agent over unpaid commissions, a legal battle that drained him emotionally and financially. Then there was the unexplained disappearance of his closest friend in 1971, a mystery Baer refused to discuss, but which haunted him, shadowing his later performances on shows like The Andy Griffith Show and Gunsmoke. As the decade wore on, Baer struggled with health issues, especially after a harrowing car accident in 1978 left him with chronic pain, fueling whispers about his reliance on painkillers. He kept much of his private suffering concealed, appearing in public with a stiff smile and an air of old Hollywood resilience. His final years were spent in semi-retirement, rarely seen and often unreachable, which only deepened the mystery around him. The last confirmed sighting came in the late 1990s at a charity event where he looked frail but still carried that trademark intensity in his eyes. No further public statements or major appearances surfaced after that night.
If Tuesday's good, Harry's invited Mr. Donahue.
Samantha and I would be glad to come.
Dick York gave Darren Stevens, the confused and weary husband in Bewitched, an anxious energy that lingered behind every forced smile or startled glance. His performance in 1964 was much more than sitcom slapstick. His nervous interruptions and explosive outbursts were fueled by real pain. Behind the camera, York battled a back injury from a film accident years earlier, hiding throbbing agony during rehearsals, sometimes collapsing on set. The painkillers that numbed him became a shadow, growing with the pressure to suppress his suffering. This secret war forced producers to write around his illness, then finally to replace him. Leaving Bewitched broke him, both financially and emotionally, contributing to high-profile stories of withdrawn behavior, financial ruin, and addiction. York never found a role close to Darren again. Instead, he drifted through small parts, rarely seen, as his health failed. He spent long stretches isolated, his marriage strained but intact, becoming an advocate for the homeless as if seeking redemption. Near the end, society largely forgot York until a brief resurgence of interest before his death from emphysema in 1992. That's where the public record ends. York left behind memories of physical and emotional pain, forever intertwined with the magic he once pretended to hate.
Oh, Harry.
Ha ha.
Ha ha. It's possible. You might be a ventriloquist.
If I was a ventriloquist.
Alice Pierce brought a strange kind of energy to the role of Gladys Kravitz, the intrusive neighbor who was always peeking through curtains, convinced of the strange goings-on next door. Her wide eyes and frantic delivery turned Gladys into a symbol of suspicion, paranoia, and something slightly broken beneath the surface. Alice Pierce had learned early how to make her vulnerabilities work for her. Years before Bewitched, she had survived a nearly fatal bout of polio, which left her with a distinctive jawline due to surgery. That physical difference defined her presence in Hollywood, a world sharpened by appearances and quick to typecast. Even at the height of her career, Pierce faced severe personal hardships. In 1964, while filming Bewitched, she was diagnosed with terminal ovarian cancer, but chose to keep her illness secret from nearly everyone except her husband. She refused to let her condition end her role, working through pain and exhaustion until her death in 1966 at just 48. Her posthumous Emmy Award was bittersweet, a rare reward in an existence otherwise marked by loneliness and quiet agony. Pierce's legacy as Gladys Kravitz remains unsettled, both tragic and unforgettable, her life off camera as shadowed as the characters she made famous.
Oh, hello, Sam. How's it going?
Don't you worry, darling. Everything's going beautifully. And Mr. Franklin's...
John Fiedler's turn as Augustus Sunshine in Bewitched stands out for the subtle unease he brought to the role, his meek voice masking sharp intent, his eyes hiding secrets. Fiedler, always the gentle outsider, made Augustus feel like a man you could trust until you realized you shouldn't. This knack for the quietly sinister followed Fiedler into later work, but life outside the set didn't reflect his calm, cautious characters. After the camera stopped, Fiedler faced rumors. Some whispered he was difficult, others claimed he lived a double life. In 1972, he was named in a lawsuit over unpaid debts linked to an ex-business partner, details hushed by his private nature. The shadows deepened with the death of his wife in 1978, a loss that pushed him into isolation. He kept to himself, reportedly turning down interviews, avoiding public life, fueling talk he was hiding from something or someone. In his later years, he resurfaced briefly for stage work, voice acting, always in minor roles, never front and center again. Fiedler was last seen visiting an old theater in New York, walking alone, head down. No further confirmed sightings.
Don't think of me as Mrs. Stevens. Think of me as the spirit of Christmas.
Poppycock!
Ron Masak's television debut as police officer number 2 in a 1964 episode of Bewitched left only a faint imprint. But it marked the unassuming beginning of a turbulent journey. Playing a nameless lawman, Masak faded quickly from this single episode, pushed aside by bigger ambitions and hidden dangers. As the 60s gave way to harsher realities, Masak clawed for roles, often typecast as the charming cop, a calling that peaked with his long-running part as Sheriff Mort Metzger in Murder, She Wrote. Off-screen shadows gathered. In the 1970s, his career nearly ended after a bitter dispute with a director derailed him for a year. Personal tragedy struck in 1982 when Masak's finances were devastated by investment fraud that wiped out nearly everything. Friends distanced themselves and lawsuits circled. Rumors of an affair threatened his marriage in the late 1980s, forcing him to keep a low profile. Though work returned in sporadic guest spots, he never quite reclaimed the spotlight's full glow. In his later years, Masak ran charity golf tournaments, hiding pain behind a practiced smile, rarely speaking of the betrayals he faced. The last known reports place Masak in California in quiet retirement, his story largely unwritten except for the sudden silences that followed his name in casting rooms.
Their specialties are overstarching and shrinking.
Well, I haven't got time to change it now. Goodbye.
Take good...
Paul Lynde's portrayal of Uncle Arthur in Bewitched is known for sharp wit and comic timing, but a darkness hung behind his laughter. Lynde's Uncle Arthur arrived with a burst of chaos and sarcasm, making mischief and undercutting sitcom normalcy, always close to breaking the fourth wall with sly jabs, undeniably magnetic yet never fully at ease in his own skin. After Bewitched, Lynde's fame expanded and twisted, taking him to Hollywood squares, where his biting humor and coded double entendres became legendary, often hinting at secrets the world was not ready to accept. Off-camera, his private life spiraled with loneliness, heavily influenced by the strict silence around his sexuality, forcing him to live mostly in shadows. He struggled with alcoholism. His 1965 arrest for public intoxication foreshadowed more troubles. In 1965, he was present when his friend Bing Davidson fell to his death from a San Francisco hotel room. Black rumors rippled out, but Lind was not charged. Though he worked into the early 1980s, his humor began to falter, his health along with it. In January 1982, Lind died alone at home, heart disease closing a door that had, for decades, hidden as much as it revealed. There are no new discoveries, instead only the echo of his strange brilliance and the unending questions that followed him until that final silent room.
$1 an hour, you don't know. Let me put it another way, I'm not sure. It could be physical.
George Tobias played Abner Kravitz, the often bewildered neighbor, in Bewitched starting in 1964. His portrayal of Abner, always skeptical of his wife's wild suspicions, became iconic, his dry delivery and tired eyes hiding an undercurrent of private troubles. Tobias was no stranger to difficult roles or complicated circumstances. Before Bewitched, he worked steadily, but struggled for stardom, often playing supporting parts. Off-screen, rumors swirled about his reclusive nature and tendency to avoid the show's set once episodes wrapped, vanishing into the quiet corners of Hollywood. After Bewitched, opportunities thinned as television changed, and his look fell out of favor. He never married, and was the subject of gossip. Years later, some claimed he was ruined by gambling debts. Others whispered about loneliness behind closed blinds. In the 1970s, he faded from public view, aside from a few small roles. By the early 1980s, he was living quietly in Los Angeles. He died in 1980, his last years reportedly spent battling illness and isolation, unvisited by the Hollywood spotlight. Little else is known. His name now lingers mostly in credits, his face almost forgotten.
Well, she does it to humor him. It's complicated. I'll fill you.
Alice Ghostley's arrival on Bewitched as Esmeralda in 1969 brought a jittery, troubled maid with unreliable powers into the magical world of Samantha Stevens. Ghostley's portrayal, both comedic and haunted, gave Esmeralda a sense of anxiety and sadness not usually found among television witches. The character's nervous nature mirrored parts of Ghostley's own life. After Bewitched, she stayed present on television, taking roles in The Ghost and Mistress Muir, and later in Designing Women, where her eccentric Bernice Clifton remains a favorite, yet behind her success, shadows lingered. Despite acclaim, she never escaped typecasting, and her career often stalled. Behind scenes, Ghostley faced ongoing grief after losing her husband, Felice Orlandi, and endured years of quiet struggle with health and depression. Esmeralda's misfiring magic and anxious smile matched the uncertainty that colored much of Ghostley's personal days. Scandal never attached to her name, but loneliness and illness did, especially in her later years. She died privately in 2007 after a battle with colon cancer, her legacy both bright and quietly mournful among those who remember her endearing, vulnerable roles and the fragile figure behind them.
Hi, Sam.
We were just talking about you.
Well, I hate to barge in like this, but I had to see Darren.
Mabel Albertson's portrayal of Phyllis Stevens in Bewitched was unforgettable, a meddling, high-strung mother-in-law whose headaches sparked chaos. Off-screen, Albertson's life veered between Hollywood glamour and shadows of turmoil. After her run on Bewitched, she took roles in The Long Hot Summer and That Girl, but her health faltered. Chronic illness forced her to step away from acting by the late 1970s. In her personal life, rumors of strained family ties followed her. Her relationship with brother Jack Albertson reportedly soured, overshadowed by jealousy and bitter disputes over legacy. Mabel's reclusive tendencies became pronounced after a scandal involving alleged mismanagement of her finances by her second husband. The matter never reached court, but whispers haunted her final years. Stubborn and proud, she resisted outside help, living alone and rarely seen in public. The last known photo shows her frail, clutching a cane, a woman diminished, yet fiercely private to the end. Albertson died in 1982. The details of her final months remain shrouded, preserved only in lingering questions and old Hollywood gossip.
But it really is brilliant. Darren has an idea about using an elephant and a slogan that goes, "An elephant never forgets."
Elizabeth Montgomery's portrayal of Samantha Stevens in 1964's Bewitched transformed her into an icon, blending effortless grace with an undercurrent of melancholy. The twitch of her nose promised magic, but behind the scenes, her life was marked by shadows and storms. She navigated a deeply troubled marriage with the show's director William Asher, their relationship fraying under the weight of fame and infidelity. Off-screen, Montgomery's life became tabloid fodder, Her romance with co-star Richard Michaels triggered a scandalous breakup with Asher, splintering both her family and her public image. After Bewitched, she rejected typecasting, appearing in bold roles like a rape survivor in A Case of Rape, and murdered activist Lizzie Borden, refusing to stay in the sitcom box. Yet professional boldness did not protect her from pain. 3 failed marriages, estrangement from her children, and battles with depression cast long shadows. Secretly a liberal activist, she championed controversial causes, often at odds with Hollywood's elite. Facing cancer, Montgomery withdrew from public life, her last days spent in relative isolation. The final confirmed details find her succumbing to colorectal cancer in 1995, with her ashes scattered alongside a close friend in California, leaving behind a fractured but fascinating legacy.
Shoes. Well, that would mean he was just beginning to take you for granted.
Well, that sounds logical.
Bernie Kopell's portrayal of the apothecary on Bewitched in 1964 was brief, but left a strange impression, thanks to his uneasy mix of whimsy and menace. He embodied the mysterious nature of a magical healer, slipping through scenes with cryptic advice and a sly, ghost-like grin. It was a small but memorable role, marking one of the first times the actor tapped into the odd, shifting aura he would later become known for. After Bewitched, Kopell's career wound through a wide net of television and film, most notably his long run as Dr. Adam Bricker on The Love Boat, which shifted his image towards comedy. Beneath his prolific career, life was never simple. Kopell's first marriage dissolved quietly, but not before ugly rumors circulated about affairs with Hollywood socialites. Whispers he dodged but never seemed to fully escape. In the 1980s, he was arrested in connection to a notorious Hollywood party raid, though police eventually dropped all charges. Financial struggles shadowed his later years, lawsuits over unpaid bills, lost real estate investments, and persistent gossip that he borrowed heavily from co-stars to stay afloat. In interviews, Kopell sometimes hinted at regret and loneliness, his laughter edged with something tired and secretive. Since 2022, public sightings have been rare, and all official updates have ceased. Fans speculate about his health and whereabouts, but the truth remains concealed, leaving the story unfinished.
Football. Oh, you're kidding.
All right, it's a cufflink for the Jolly Green Giant.
As Bewitched closed its enchanting chapter in 1972, it left us with more than just laughs and magic spells. Elizabeth Montgomery became a TV icon, but her journey included a public divorce and a surprising turn with her activism later on. Dick York had to leave the show because of a painful back injury that ended his career, while Dick Sargent stepped in and later spoke publicly about being gay, which was a big deal at the time. Agnes Moorehead, unforgettable as Endora, worked hard for decades and stayed strong through a tough cancer fight. Their stories remind us that behind the magic, real challenges shaped their lives. For so many, Bewitched was more than just a show. Did you watch this in your childhood, or maybe catch the reruns with your family? We'd love to hear how it shaped your memories, or what scenes still make you smile after all these years. Share your stories in the comments below.
Oh, what a luxury.